Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I'm Amanda Parker. Enjoy this episode of Girl Awakening in all of its vulnerable sacredness.
And remember to subscribe and share. Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jo.
How lucky are we today?
Oh, feeling extremely blessed to be connecting with our guest on Girl Awakening today.
Yes.
A person we're both very big fans of and have reached into ourselves, shall we say, extensively in our lives.
Absolutely. Sitting on the beach at Miami with our headphones in, listening to this wonderful, beautiful soul.
Sharing what always seems to be extremely appropriate for what's happening in our lives with the meditation. Oops. Oops. That we are listening to.
So today we have Rasa, aka the voice of Pura Rasa, writer and editor of guided meditations, found on YouTube and on Insight Timer, and now also has her own app, which is amazing.
Yoga app. Which I'm extremely excited about.
Her guided meditations range from sleep aid, stress relief, personal transformation, spirit connection, healing, law of attraction, and many more. Rasa is a qualified life coach and a yoga teacher. Her interests are human and animal psychology, science, psychic development, learning about the purpose and function of the mind, body, and soul. So welcome, Rasa. We are so excited to have you on our Girl Awakening podcast.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
And all the way from, we have a beautiful location here in Miami on the Gold Coast, but you're sitting in beautiful Bali, home of everyone's heart.
Yes. I'm here at Mama Bali in the warm hug, embraced by the jungle and the sunshine. Couldn't be happier.
Wow. So I noticed that you have been doing some meditations while you're there.
Yes, I'm always working. I'm always creating. That never stops, really.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
A continuous flow.
Exactly. Yes, it's hard to stop, when the inspiration comes, especially here. And I feel extra blessed, and especially here, I feel like I should use the opportunity, of inspiration and just write more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've been told many times. I mean, we've both spent a lot of time in Bali ourselves, but we've also been told there's a grid point in Bali, quite a big, powerful grid point that opens up to a lot more than just the beautiful people, food, and culture.
Do you mean the vibration and energy?
Yes, the frequency there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is palpable. And Balinese, I believe, they call that taksu, and people of Bali, they hold that within themselves as well, and this is why I'm drawn to their culture and people and the kindness and kind of gentle energy that they hold as well. So this is why they have that special taksu, as they say.
Beautiful.
As you say, palpable, that's the best word to describe it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're going to dive in, Rasa, and ask you our
number one question.
Our number one question. I was going to say heroine question, but number one, how did your awakening begin?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. When I thought about it more in depth before this, our get together, I started to question what is an awakening and how did this happen for me? And so to awaken, I guess, is to wake up from sleep or either become, of new forms of sudden consciousness. And I think for me, it started from my childhood, to be honest, because when we have our awakening, I believe we question who we are, what's beyond this physical world. And I remember being very young, laying on the grass in the evening in the summer with my friends and looking at the stars and having these questions. and always wanted to know what's out there, you know, that kind of intention, what's beyond here. And for me, I had quite a difficult childhood, and I think for me that desire to escape was always present. I've mentioned in other podcasts I've opened up, I think the traumatic childhood was the catalyst for my awakening. So it began really early.
Mhm.
Saying.
And trauma is a very powerful activator, isn't it, Rasa?
Yes, absolutely. But also at the same time, you cannot really look within because you're always looking outward for danger or, you know, how to avoid danger, you know, things like that. So it kind of started, but also it didn't at the same time. But in the meantime, while I was going through that experience in my childhood, with, you know, having an unstable and at times really violent environment, I had my grandmother who was the complete opposite, and who I would see sometimes, you know, during summer, because it was like an hour away at the time, and I didn't have the means to go there because I was very young, you know. But when I did go to her, she was that light for me and kind of showed me the other part of life and what's possible. And she was very devoted Christian, but in Lithuania, or at least in my family, Christianity was not Christianity that people normally like would know.
Yeah.
Her was like positive Christianity, which is like, I never knew, like, really, we never talked about like the devil or anything like that. It's actually very strange to me. But she always talked about angels and grace and blessings, and she had her own gratitude and manifestation almost rituals that she did. And she also lived very like naturally. She had in the backyard, you know, her own food, pretty much everything she needed. And so being around her, and I could see that she's gone through a lot as well, but like a lot. And she never carried like anger or anything like that. And she always told me to keep my heart soft. And, you know, to always, you know, have space for that. And so she was like the big light in my life. And so I always leaned towards her. And she was very active as well with us kids, like us cousins, you know. So, and she would take me out in nature, like teach me about herbs and just lots of things, you know. So she really connected me to nature as well as faith and spiritual world.
How beautiful. How lucky to have that in your world when things seemed quite chaotic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it seems now that everything was almost as if by design.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel that was because in the environment that I grew up in, I've experienced a lot of, like, a wide range of emotions and negative emotions, you know. And so now when I create meditations, I feel like people that come to these meditations perhaps, you know, are going through the same things, and I have a perspective. Like, I know what it's like to be abused. I know what it's like, you know, being neglected, or, you know, like just the worst you could imagine. So I know what that feels like, but also I know what the other side is too.
Yeah. Wow. So growing up in Lithuania, is that where you reside now, Rasa, or are you?
Yeah, right now I made my base between Bali and Lithuania.
Yes.
So I kind of come and go. And,
nice.
Yeah, but I do love being in Lithuania. I came back there, I think it was 2016. Before that, I lived in Ireland and then Northern Ireland for over 15 years. So that probably will answer the questions about accent that many people have.
Yes, when you said that, then I heard that beautiful,
the Ireland, the Irish, your little
tang, there's a little twang in there. It's really sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is also in the way my home as well, especially Northern Ireland. I was there recently, and as the plane was landing, I was crying, you know. It's
Wow.
always like returning home. So, and that's where my YouTube as well started, where my creation started, was Northern Ireland. I was very much also impacted and influenced by nature there as well, and the events.
Because that's what I get a sense of when you're describing your grandmother, your beautiful grandmother. I just feel like a real connection with that, the medicine woman, that the you know, what's the word, like the tree nymph, that kind of the person who communes with nature, and then in Ireland as well, like that sense of the fairy folk.
Yeah, totally. And you're so right. My grandmother had so many herbs and potions. Like we would open her wardrobe, and there's like she would be hiding in pillowcases.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and they'd be like, "Do you want some tea?" Like, "Yes, please." Nothing was
Oh. And is she still with us on Earth's side?
No, she's just passed a few months ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no,
obviously we'll always
it was
be with you.
time. It was time for her.
Yeah.
So she was in her 90s. So
Wow. Okay. Yes. Yes. So she's supporting from somewhere else.
oh yeah, she is. Yeah, that's a whole other story. But yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful. So that's like, it's amazing how we often have these polarities in our life of, you know, between the light and the dark, and how one, as you said, like, you know, that escape sense of wanting to escape
Yeah.
can be fueled, but at the same time you feel supported because you have that little bit of light that keeps you who you are.
Yeah, it's like yeah, she kept shining that light on me, you know, kind of like showing me what's possible. But then, you know, for me, I think then I kind of became a teenager or like a young adult, you know, the other stuff came in, starting to rebel and doing things like that.
Yes. Yes.
But, I think I took anyway that anxiety and trauma with me into my adulthood, and without having, you know, secure attachment or like healthy examples of relationships and things like that. So that set me up for quite a journey, you know, for my own you know, connections. And I remember before, like when I discovered meditation, or even before that, actually, I started to question my story, you know. And I remember being back home in Lithuania by this lake. It's like my favorite spot there. And I was sitting in this boat, and I was like looking at the water and thinking there's just something wrong. And it hit me. I started to question, you know, like my story. And I thought, I feel like there's more to me, you know, than my story. And I cannot be telling this story anymore. I have to change this. And so then I made a vow to myself that it's not necessarily that I won't tell my story, but how I will tell it.
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't tell it at all, actually, for a long time. I'm only starting to talk about it now, a little bit. And so I made that vow. And I think from that intention, you know, back then there was no such language, intentions, manifestations, universe. There was nothing like that. It was all intuitive, kind of. You just do it. And so I knew that, you know, that something will change. I just knew it in my heart if I was to do that. And so then I remember I started to suffer from severe anxiety and panic attacks. I think I was in my like early 20s. I'm 45 next week. So
oh, wow. Really? I thought you were in your like late 20s, early 30s.
No, I'm 44 right now.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And so yeah, then I was just basically backed up into a corner with my anxiety, and I would just wake up before even I opened my eyes. I was already crying, you know, like and thinking I'm going to die. It's that anxiety feeling, you know, when you panic, like you're going to die. So like first thing in the morning. So I knew like this is it, I'm in the corner. Like, I don't know, I've no room, basically. There's something that needs to change. And I had a friend, like a really good friend of mine from Lithuania, and she was suffering from anxiety at the time as well. And she was like, listen, I heard about this thing, meditation. I was like, yeah, I heard about it too. Like, what is it? She's like, I think you just kind of sit quiet and, you just kind of avoid your thoughts. That's what we thought,
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, that sounds cool because, yeah, I need to avoid my thoughts.
Don't we all?
Well, so let's do it. And she's also like a nature lover, and we used to always hike by the coast because we lived in this town, like coastal town. So we went by the coast and we sat, like the shores are like really rocky, and we found this like patch of grass and we just sat there. Okay, let's do it. And we were close, like from, I don't know, age 12, 13. So as soon as I remember, like I closed my eyes and I started to meditate, I had this like powerful visual, like a lightning bolt just like striking me.
Wow.
And, I had like such an interesting experience that it kind of shook me and it made me pay attention. I think, that was the purpose of it. And I believe she had a profound experience too. And we kind of went on this path together. Then we started doing yoga and things like that. And so then we made it our regular practice. Obviously, the anxiety didn't go away right away, but it did start that self-inquiry even more, because the visuals came in and my intuition kind of started to evolve. And everything started to happen, especially with my intuitive side. Things just started to happen really quickly for me. As soon as I would close my eyes, I would start to experience something. And honestly, at the time, I thought I was losing my mind. And I didn't know how to take it because I was communicating with some beings, but I didn't. And I literally thought I was losing my marbles.
It's quite a big.
Yeah, I was quite but so then I started to take interest, what this is, what is this awakening, what is the third eye, what is this intuition, how do I kind of organize myself, because this is a lot coming all at once. And also I'm still experiencing trauma, all of those things. And so I really went being totally with myself, because you can only do these things alone, really, to understand it. Again, like being by myself in nature, trying different out practices, staring at the candle for an hour, or meditating for a long time, or using, cards, kind of like I used to, like I created this game with myself, like I would take up like tarot cards. I don't do readings, by the way, if anyone's but I used to use these cards to just kind of put a scarf over my eyes and click record on the video, and I would just like take a card and face it to the screen, and I would say what I'm seeing, and I would go through like 10 cards, let's say, if it's a color, if it's a feeling, or what is it, and then I would look at the video, I'd be like, holy cow, like this is accurate.
Power Rasa, power of sight.
Yeah, and then so that was happening, and then I started actually like seeing things in the room, and I really didn't like that. And I was and I had to then learn that I can put boundary on that as well. And I never had boundaries in my life, like people or spiritual beings, so I think with spiritual connection, that was my first boundary. I said, no, I don't like this. I don't want to see, like I can feel, I can hear, I can understand, but that's about it. And I remember I was still thinking I'm crazy, but I remember I was at work. I worked in HR as an HR officer for me almost like 11 years. And that was my job. And I had my hands on the keyboard, and like this pink orb landed on top of my hand. And I was so freaked out. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And I felt this intuition was telling me to actually go forward with my intuition and psychic abilities. But I was almost like having this conversation like a crazy person inside, like, I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? And I got a guide, like, just Google it. It's just Google it. And it's this sense of urgency, like now.
Yes.
And I did that, and because the class started tomorrow, actually.
Oh, wow. How's that timing? Perfect.
Yes. And so they actually had like 9 people, and they were looking for 10 or 11 to complete the group. And I was the last one to join. And so I went to the psychic development class in Belfast, this House of Healing, it was called. This English woman, and the things that I experienced there, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And so that actually validated completely that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, there was events there, how to explain this? Let's say I'll do some development by myself. I'll go somewhere, you know, and then this guy, we would meditate together, and he would just approach me like, you were in the woods yesterday. I see you sitting there. And he would describe exactly what I did.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So straight into the power source of exactly where you needed to go, because you're already kind of sitting there and thinking you were crazy.
Yes. And, you know, the guide that I communicated with at the time, who was like, you know, guiding me, my guide also came through that guy as well in one of our meditations. And he said, I have a message for you. And I remember just it hit me right in the heart, and I was just crying. And he actually pronounced his name and everything correctly. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm listening now.
Yeah. So wow,
so
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was very powerful, but we did also very practical exercises there to kind of like strengthen that muscle and obviously remove the doubt, you know, because that's what was plaguing me the whole time.
Wow. So
yeah, human aspect, isn't it? The doubt of...
Yeah, so I think the awakening happened fully then, because there is that sense of euphoria that you get as well.
Yeah.
In a sense, because you realize how much more there is to life, and you start to really change your opinion about yourself, who you really are.
Yeah. You're getting that fulfillment. You're getting that natural fulfillment that's within. It's come from nothing outside of yourself.
Yeah. And for me, the next step was that my brother passed away. First, my father passed away, and then 4 weeks later, my brother actually took his own life. And so then I think almost all what happened before prepared me for this.
Yeah.
And so once my brother passed, like, we started to communicate right away, pretty much.
Oh gosh, how beautiful.
So, and he had like impact as well on what I do, because he would guide me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's, you know, what I do is to do with mental illness and things like that. And which, you know, this is where he, you know, what he was suffering from. So yeah, it's kind of like a collaboration sometimes with him, you know. So yeah, then my brother, you know, would come in my dreams, or we would just communicate, and you know, I could ask questions. What is it like to die? What does that feel like? You know, and he would respond. And then also when I communicated, I started to have doubt, because I was like, okay, I don't know, like, if it's in my head still. You know, I always had this doubt, and maybe this comes from my childhood, always not being, you know, good enough and doubting myself. So what I did was I went back to the House of Healing 2 weeks after my brother passed, and I made an appointment with this woman who is a psychic there, but I've never met her before. I was working with another woman, but I've heard of this woman, and her name is Angela, which is really nice as well.
Angela.
Yeah. And so I went to her to confirm all what I was experiencing, you know, and when I went there, and she's so incredible. I can only compare her with Tyler, you know, the reader in Hollywood. But
yes, right.
Yes.
But Angela is very accurate in like physical appearances. She would describe my brother to a T, like even his laugh or the way even his teeth were aligned. And so she, was passing the message on, but then she said, but you already are talking, he's telling me. So,
What are you checking up on him?
yeah, and there was a lot of different little details that only me and my brother knew, so that she was passing on. And also I did this like a trick test as well, that I was talking to my brother. I said, so, okay, I want you to bring up something specific, that we agree on now.
Yeah.
And he brought up this, first I said, let's do avocado because it's super random. And I knew, he loved avocados. And he's like, no, let's do a bracelet that I bought for my other sister. I said, cool, let's do that. And then it was like midway, the reader was like, your brother wants to talk about a bracelet. And then she described the bracelet.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's just no mistake. I knew that
Yeah.
this is real and this is happening. So then he became very much like this integral part of that part of my life. And, conversations that we had, me and him, about the bigger picture.
How beautiful that you still had that connection, probably stronger than when he was here.
Yeah, it's subsided now because it's another part of my life. But
Yeah.
at the time, let's say for a year and a half, it was like all the time. And I did feel like we're much closer now because he is literally, right here always and available. And so, yeah, I'm, obviously it's difficult to not have someone in physical, but
Yeah.
to have that perspective and understanding that there's just so much more, like, and it's so much bigger. And yeah, it's mind-blowing and it's life-changing, really. That's what that part of my life did to me. Like, it just changed my life and the way I see the world.
And do you feel like it was kind of also like healing for both of you, like the fact, his passing being so sudden and
Yeah,
into illness, like, and then for you, I guess the grief aspect too, like that relationship that you shared after his passing, as being able to ask all those questions and learning and open up that part of yourself, but healing for both of you as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I really don't know how I would have survived that if I didn't have that perspective, but because I do, and I was able to ask questions and have kind of like resolution within me about him and his confusion about life, and and he's in a completely different place. And as the reader, Angela, said to me, like, he is glowing so much, it's almost like he's surrounded by sparkles.
That's so
Like,
beautiful.
he's so happy, and when it happened, I knew right away that I support and respect his decision, no matter how weird that sounds for others. But I do, I have to.
Yeah. But respecting their wishes above all else is the greatest love, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. And then I was able to, to hear from him after, that was his path and that was his decision and that was his way. And we always want to take responsibility. I wish I've done more, I said more. I go back through our conversations, when he told me he's struggling and things like that. And there's that, guilt that comes with this, and but he was able to clear all that up for me, that it was his decision, and like, to quit, guilty.
It's just so powerful, so beautiful.
Yeah.
And so as well, like just that truth and all of that is so beautiful.
Yeah, and and to know that life doesn't end, and it makes me want to live life more, actually. And maybe, like, I think the reason why I'm not as connected as before, like all day, every day, just practicing, like, I've realized the contrast of having your mind in a spiritual world and all that aspect and being here on earth, that actually my preference is being here a lot. I don't know if this is Taurus in me or what is it, but I just like being feet on the ground, you know, maybe in the garden, in the dirt, and just, you know, going through life with life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
While
I'm hearing
while knowing that there's definitely more. I think that is my preference. And I will never be that esoteric teacher. I'll always bring back to earth everyone.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's so beautiful that you say that, and I know that you have recently seen Abraham, and I know that, you know, I've been listening, watching, taking in them for many years now, and the one thing that stands out the most to me, they were asked the question, what do you miss the most about being on the planet? And they said the contrast, and I was like, oh, it really hit home for me, you know, that when we do pass, we don't have the contrast anymore. You know, we don't have the feelings, we don't have the standing in the dirt and playing with it and all that. You know, there's so much more, but we also miss out on so much if we're not truly being here while we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, by the way, I'm going to see Abraham in May. I haven't, yeah, but I feel like I've seen her.
Yeah, well, it's funny listening to you talk about your first meditation. It's very it reminds me so much of when actually Esther and Jerry first started meditating, because they were told to, and they laughed about it, and they sat back to back and did a first meditation, and Esther got so much out of it, but she didn't know what the hell was going on. It's so beautiful. It's like, oh.
Yeah. And you know, at the time as well, in my that awakening and spiritual journey, I also started listening to Abraham. So this was maybe 2009, you know, like and I based my belief system, like when it comes to universe, you know, basically around that. And so I think it's evident in my meditations as well. In some way, I'm still, you know, I love the contrast. I'll never shy away, and I'll not be in this toxic positivity, you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Esther and her energy and the message that she has. And I think she also in a way saved me, you know, because when I remember whenever I was still working in HR for a long time, and I was like, oh, please God, I need to quit this, you know, but I don't know what else to do. Like, what's my purpose? The universe, show me, you know, and all this, like as many people do. And I started listening to her for a while, and I kind of, you know, then had the jargon, you know, to ask, you know, like I knew what to say. So I remember also sitting on my desk as always, and then just looked up and I said, universe, please, can you give me a job that I could just work a few hours, could be creative, I could express myself and everything that I hold within me, and oh yeah, maybe pay my debts and all of that. Thank you.
Just some basic essentials.
Yeah, and then what do you know? It was like 6 months later, I was let go from the job that I was in for over 11 years, and I had no guts to quit. And my marriage fell apart. And then I, you know, before, like, I lost my dad and my brother, basically everything. I was like the rug really just went from under. And I found myself in this different landscape in my mind, and I didn't know, you know, on what to grasp. And first thing I was like, right, Abraham, here we go, you know, because it speaks so true to me. And I kind of connected the dots, you know, when I told myself I'm going to tell my story differently, you know, what my grandmother used to say, like all of that, kind of like this similar fabric that I recognize, you know, around us. And so I remember I journaled nonstop on gratitude, even though it seemed like there's nothing to be grateful for at the time. When there's like letters coming in and asking me to pay for this and that. And, you know, I was just left with, you know, with that basically when I was alone. And so I just started going for it and writing as the tears were streaming, you know, and I was like writing and writing and writing and writing. And I think within 2 weeks, I saw massive changes in my life. Like it really works. Like I was at the bottom, and
Wow.
again, and I was like, okay, I have the tools, I'm going to use them. And within a year, I was debt free. I was certified yoga teacher. I went to Bali for the first time. I started YouTube, but
Wow.
it's not like everything was like presented all at once. It was kind of just trickling, here you
Yeah.
go, here you go, here you go.
Yeah.
What about this person? What about this idea? And in between there was still fear and doubt, but I would just keep going back to my notebook and meditation and watching my thoughts, watching what I'm affirming within myself and feeling how that is dispersing across my whole being and my cells. And I kind of wanted to remake myself to create something different, and I knew I had to change my thoughts and how I see my world. Yeah, so slowly but surely I got stronger, I had better ideas, and then I recorded my first meditation like randomly. I think I was like, it was like fall, autumn in Northern Ireland. It's pretty cold, and their houses, they just suck. And like the thin the thin walls, and it's like 12 degrees in the room, and you're like, oh my God, I'm freezing. And I remember laying by the radiator with my iPhone, and I finished my psychic development class, and I was very strong in my connections with my guides. And I just started to record, like laying there with a blanket on. And I posted that on YouTube. And I think within like a month or two, I can't remember, but fairly quickly it had 1 million of views.
Rasa. Oh my gosh.
At the time, there was nothing on that subject really.
Yeah.
It was very little on YouTube at the time. So, excuse me. And then I was like, okay, well, I left it there. And then I started to get comments, you should do more, you should do more. And then, okay, I thought, you know what, maybe I'll start writing. Because actually my dream since I was a child was to be a writer. I didn't know in what capacity.
Yeah.
But after school, I used to go to this library just to, how would you say, fix books, like glue, like torn pages and things like that. Like read the books, and I would just stand there and smell the books, and I just love the smell, and the kind of the coziness and privacy between the the shelves, hiding away. Kind of love that, and I was like, I would love to be a writer. And
books are like friends, aren't they? Sometimes they're like your friends as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, I need to pause for 1 second. This cat needs to leave.
Yeah, just books, libraries, the presence in the place. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so yeah, that was sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
Right, you're in the library fixing the books and wishing to be a writer.
And that was when I wanted to become a writer, but I didn't know in what capacity. And we used to journal with my friend as well, the one that had anxiety too. So but now now the subject is completely different, and I feel like I finally on the train tracks that I need to be on. And this was meant to be. And yeah.
I have to ask, Rasa, when you first started meditating, were you doing guided meditations, or were you just sitting in silence?
Silence.
Yeah, I've always wondered, is there, a big difference when you're really wanting to connect with higher self and all of that, whether the sitting in silence is much better than the guided meditations? I've always found it so much easier to listen to a guided meditation.
It's hard to say, what's better for you, zucchini or a cucumber, It's like, it depends, really. So I think with guided or doing it solo, it also depends on the time and place. If I have like things within me that I need to get out, like information, guidance, things like that, of course, I think it's better to sit by yourself. And try to get that out. If someone is struggling to get there and connect, and actually I can guide into that sensation, what that feels like, because that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to copy what I experienced, you know,
Yeah.
and get someone there. So that could be helpful too. It just really depends how you feel in a day. I've done guided meditations, but not too many, because I felt I've had so much to share that I had to get it out. You know, I realized that was my purpose, getting it out of me, rather than, and also when I started, then I became very protective over my meditations at the beginning, because, you know, I was like, well, you know, I don't know how much inspiration I will have, how long this will last.
Yeah.
But then I got guided. It will never end. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Good.
Beautiful.
That's good. Because
So
I was
then-
laughing when you're describing, sorry, about the bolt of lightning. Because most people, when they sit for their first meditation, they start their fidget. They find it hard for the mind to stop. You know, there's the thoughts, the groceries keep coming in, and Rasa and your friend, you're both sitting there, and you feeling this bolt of lightning coming in, and an activation in that space. So straight away, it's like a part of your DNA, isn't it, to kind of recognize.
Yeah, and then there was many like these types of confirmations for me, like many, like even DNA that you mentioned. I had this profound dream about DNA when I started doing meditations, and actually this is why I created that meditation that is called, I think, DNA.
I love that one. Yes.
Altering. So that was from my dream that I had, the exact thing. And yeah. So in that meditation, what I describe is what happened to me. And then I felt, oh, okay, you know, something like I took it as like the next step for change, basically. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So,
So you're, how old are you, Rasa, now that when you first started recording on your phone with your meditation and posted it on YouTube? How old were you then? Do you remember?
oh, it's all a blur.
The 12 degrees in the lounge room is kind of a bit of hard to.
Yeah, I think I was in my, let me think. I think I was in my 30s, like mid 30s, maybe late 30s.
And what drew you to Bali, Rasa?
Yoga, actually.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
I was gonna go to India, but then I kind of figured out that maybe it's not the best solo female in India to travel.
Yes.
I'm still skittish. I'm still like an introvert. So, and then I read about Bali and the great and big community here. And so I thought, yes, I'll do my you know, training and learning here. And so once I came here, I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. The next level of healing, next level of activation.
Yeah, and there's so many like-minded people, and it's such a normal conversation what we're having now, you know, it's just the most normal conversation here at the cafe, especially in Ubud, you know. Actually, there's so many memes about that, about Ubud and the
Ubud, absolutely. Yeah.
But I love it. I love that you can be yourself, you know, you can be this multidimensional being. You can be, let's say I live in Canggu, which is more like maybe people would say party scene and things like that, but I disagree. There's everything here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I can be this, I don't know, fancy going for dinner, you know, and then at 4 o'clock I'll go to my yoga practice and, you know, tune into my spirit guides. I can be all of myself because I'm definitely not just one side.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
It's very freeing. So what did you notice happening around you, Rasa? Like, you know, when you started doing, like, from your journaling to the meditations on YouTube, obviously that 1 year, as you say, like, even though it was trickling, that's still quite a short amount of time for things to change from your career in HR to being free and living in your spirit.
I think just like as life goes, it's kind of made up of these like little synchronicities, you know. and events. Like I can't remember like big ones. There's no big ones. They were all like little ones, you know, like meeting the right people, getting the right information, things just opening up, like people inviting me to do certain things together, you know, stuff like that. As simple as meeting the right person to file for bankruptcy, let's say, you know, that had like a kind heart and deep understanding towards my problems that I had at the time. You know, things like that, that I felt so grateful for, that anyone that was coming into my life was very gentle. And that's exactly what I needed at the time. So yeah.
Experience to kind of surrender to that situation and let everything go and, you know, sign off on that, basically, isn't it? That, you know, part of what.
Yeah. And also there was other things that later that would come to me. For example, I had some issues with health, and there was two things I remember that I needed answers to, and I just couldn't know at the time. I was just like, you know, or I was doubting myself. And I was checking in with my father, and I was like, I need help. I need you to give me guidance of what I need to do here. And I cannot get an appointment with Angela because she's so good. She's booked up in like months in advance. So to confirm this. And a week and a half later, I get a message from one of my subscribers, and she's psychic, and she says, I was showering and I got a message that you need a reading.
I love the way things come through.
Yeah. I said, oh yes, I know what this is about. She's like, okay, let's do it. And then we became real friendly. She's actually from Ireland, which I'm close to that country, so immediately I felt comfortable. And she is blind from birth, so and this gift, you know. So it's wonderful to connect with her, and we did then many times after that. So it's like this, you know, or I would like ask a question, and then a YouTube video would come up and the answer would be there. Like it's just like that. So now I'm like, okay, I just ask a question, you know, and it just is in front of me. But with my dad as well, it was interesting. When he passed, I couldn't connect with him for a long time, nor Angela. She couldn't either. And so she's like, that's very strange, because she said, because daddies normally love me. I said, you know. And then I remember, you know, when I was grieving for both of them, I used to go hiking in this park. Just hiking is the theme in my life. I used to go hiking, and then I associated my dad with white butterflies. And there was two white butterflies that were just like flying around, and one of them sat on a flower, and I was like longing to connect with him. And I started like touching the butterfly, and it wouldn't fly away. And I was like stroking its wings, and I was like, Dad, like, I need to connect with you. And, you know, can you find a way, you know, let's set a date, like I need to talk to you. And then sometime later, I had this dream. And in the dream, this humongous white butterfly came in. And I got the guidance, the question, do you want me to be your guide? Because I will guide you.
Oh, wow.
And I knew it was my dad. And then I finally got an appointment with Angela. And she said to me, she said, your dad is asking if you want him to be your guide.
Wow.
I said, yeah, we already agreed. He says, and she said, he says, like, if you need anything at any time, just remember to ask him. And this is why then I kept asking, you know, like that reader came through, like the subscriber and things like that. So yeah, so I have that image of him now. And we're in a different space now, because our relationship, like he was the source of my pain when I was a child, but now he is, you know, on the other side, guiding me. So it's very interesting how it came full circle. And also a couple of years ago, or no, 3 years ago, here in Bali, I was at I think it's called Tantric Yoga session with breath work. And I hadn't connected with my dad before that for a long time. And then I was in that session, and it was one of those things like that lightning, you know, when I was meditating, my dad came through, and I have it in my voice notes, all of what he told me then. And he showed me that the way I came into my life is what we agreed from the beginning.
Yes.
And then he explained how our heart and brain work when it comes to connection to the universe, to intentions and things like that. It was actually a lot of information, and also how to give up the pain. And there was other beings that were there, but the main thing was that he was this interesting now being in my life, you know, that had the opposite role to what he had before. But also the other thing was that if I had any kind of like, why me, you know, when from my past, it really went away with the understanding that I received. Oh, okay, we agreed on this. Like, I signed up for this. This was my choice, because now I have this understanding. Now I have this contrast. It's a really rich contrast, not necessarily good to experience at the time, but it is. And so I can't regret anything, and I wouldn't change a thing. No matter if it stings sometimes to remember, but I know this is necessary for me and for my life and my human experience on earth.
So true.
It's the most beautiful, like, form of forgiveness, and the giving for you, as we've been sharing that word this week ourselves. But and that a true you know, the gift of that, like the karma between you and your father, and what you decided to share between each other, and then to have that conversation and learning from him afterwards, in his after his passing, and him as your guide. It's amazing to comprehend and connect in with that idea of I was listening to recently, like, how mind doesn't die, like how, you know, our mind, our essence, our soul carries on, and to have this continued communication and learning, even though our physical body isn't there. What you're sharing in that moment with that communication with your father, and even the love that was within you to be open to ask him to be your guide. I mean, that indicates such a huge sense of forgiveness and love in that itself, isn't it? That you were turning to him for help.
Yeah, but you know, the funny thing is, I never held anything against him, even when he hurt me. Never. And I could never understand why I don't have these emotions towards him. Now, my therapist says because I couldn't as a child, because it was dangerous for me to have these emotions. But the way I also feel that this love between me and him is continuous. It's this round circle, you know. And even coming in as a child and, you know, being hurt by him, I was more confused than angry. Because I loved him no matter what. You know, that love is eternal. And so I never had like anger towards him, or, you know, I didn't want to do anything back, you know, towards him. It was just like, I remember when he passed, I felt a relief. And not because that he's, you know, he passed, but that I'm safe. And now we can continue in this, like, what we are, you know, spirit kind of like connection, you know, because that is safe. The human experience is over. If that makes sense.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even very
the relationship was taking on a new form, and it's the way it's supposed to be.
It's taken the form that I wanted to have from the beginning, but I was confused as a child, you know, so now we can have that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
That's so beautiful.
It's profound.
If only, you know, if only majority of people had that opportunity to actually just view it through that lens, how much pain we would would take away,
Be free from.
be free from. Yeah.
Yeah, certain emotions would go away. I don't know if the whole pain would go away, but certain, yes, it would help for sure. Yeah, but I think pain is unavoidable. It's our human condition, and because we have relationships with one another, we have love, we have expectations, we have breakups and things like that. I think this is a necessary part of life, but also we are here to learn like a bigger perspective about life. And the wider it gets, that perspective, the easier it is to live. And to do that, actually, we need to be quiet a lot more and meditate.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not be in that overstimulated state constantly. And that was another thing that came up, my thoughts around when you started talking about your experience with meditation. To follow a guided meditation, especially when we're beginning, is so powerful, and to be able to direct that busyness of the mind into being still, into receiving, into channeling your energy into a space that is replenishing. And that's where your the guided meditation is so powerful in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just taking that dispersed mind from all the places back into that one spot. And I think this is why we relax, because we are no longer out there in so many things and tasks and past and future and worries. And then we're brought back into one spot to think about one thing or go on this one journey with guided meditation. And I think this is why it can be so powerful, because we are able to do all those things and be aware psychically, be aware spiritually. We are all capable to do this. I know this. But we cannot do that when we are in so many places, and it takes dedication and focus to come into that one place and actually look into yourself. I recently thought about what it is like without knowing yourself. I feel like it's like running around a room, like a dark room full of furniture, and you don't know what's inside that room. It's pretty painful, But once you actually sit down and you get to know your thoughts, you get to know your triggers, you get to know your mind, where it tends to go to, always these circuits that it follows. You're that dark room that you sit in. Where everything is. You can see it when you close your eyes. Your leg starts to, shake, wants to get out of it. Like your mind, wants to eat, or all these things. So you become comfortable, and you become comfortable to move past that. So, yeah, I think it's a lot more comfortable living than with yourself once you know where everything is, how it is organized.
True.
I love that. That's
beautiful
so
sense
beautiful.
of knowing that adds a whole different connection or visual of know thyself. What you just were describing in that room.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What do you do now, Rasa, to support yourself for staying in the moment and staying in that beautiful soul space?
I've built that good foundation for myself, and it's not that I have to do something to become something, from that super negative, to positive. Like I have good foundation. So it's just, to me, it's like maintaining that position.
Yeah.
And I always lean on the simple practices like meditation. Affirmations are huge for me. And journaling. I'm not as an avid, I mostly I write meditation. So I kind of dive into that anyway when I write or edit them. But I'm in therapy also, that really helps. And I always recommend, just to really get to know yourself, not only on a spiritual level, but as a human that was built in a discombobulated way, to kind of make sense of that, what's going on. So that will be continuous for me. you know, so I can be better out there, better to myself, kinder to others, kinder to myself. So that will stay. But in terms of practices, it's simple, like Thich Nhat Hanh like says, you know, just wake up and have a half smile on your face. And I've done that this morning, like a light smile. And the energetic ramping up that I feel, it actually makes me laugh then, you know. And so it's these little practices. I think noticing life and the beauty of life, that is huge for me, because I love nature. This is why I'm in Bali, you know. It's easy to notice that as well. And I'm absorbing that and appreciating that. So I'm not doing anything magical. I'm keeping it simple, but also very practical. And it's not like I'm dedicated to a certain hour or anything like that. It's just at some point in my day, I will lean on meditation, on yoga, on a mindfulness practice, you know, I don't know, appreciating this cat that is sitting outside, looking at, you know, it's all of that, definitely. And being, just trying to be better, you know, just doing better.
Doing better.
The 4 agreements. Always do your best.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful one.
yeah,
There's
totally.
a lot to be said for the simplicity as well, isn't it? Because again, it's allowing the space for things to come in as opposed to filling up everything with a lot of doing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the worst marketer in the world. I don't have fancy practices. I don't have their let's be superhuman or anything like that. For me, it's always practicality and simplicity, because to me that has proven that it got me from where I was to where I am now. And
I resonate big time. I think we are coming into a place of simplicity more and more.
yeah, and intentions are very powerful. You know, I've experienced that in my life, that, you know, like I explained before, and there were many occasions like that. And when I realized how powerful intentions are, wow, very mindful of then what I'm intending, you know, or trying to be.
It's really beautiful.
So how do you following on from that, then that leads us into, like, how do you see the world, Rasa, and what do you see next for us?
I think the world is perfect. I think there's something for everyone. I know it's easy for me to say from my perspective where I am right now, you know. It might sound like I'm, you know, and I am privileged, I guess. But at the same time, I think that it is as it's supposed to be, to bring out awareness as it's supposed to bring out. And I don't know what's going to happen, you know, for humanity, but my hope is that we are leaning on simplicity and are kinder to ourselves, because you cannot practice that out there with others if you don't practice that with yourself. And
Absolutely.
yeah, just massaging that heart as much as possible and softening the edges, I think, is the best thing that we can do towards the future that we want to have.
Really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Feel that the power in those words, you know, massaging the heart, and what you said earlier about what your grandmother's words about keeping your heart soft. Because
always.
Yeah.
I really, I know we've talked very, very briefly about the synchronicities, but the synchronicities with you, Rasa, and just for myself personally, with Abraham, and that it's just so happens to be the day that I sent the email to you, or that you responded, was the 10th year that I actually went and saw Abraham, that popped up on my Facebook memories. And then my husband and I have just booked flights to Ireland, and he's wanting to go to Belfast, and I'm like, why do we want to go to Belfast?
Because it's amazing.
And then just listening to you, I'm like, I'm writing it down to Amanda saying, oh my God, I'm going to Belfast in September.
So she wants to go to house.
I want to go see Angela. So I'm like,
go to if you go there, go hiking where I normally go, into that forest, which is Redburn Park in Hollywood.
okay, beautiful. Yeah, so
I had a lot of inspiration there. A lot of came from those woods onto YouTube.
The
So
spirits in the forest.
yeah, my husband's big on he believes there's hidden magic in Scotland and Ireland. He said that's why it's not marketed very well, because there's just so much magic there.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm always drawn back there. And when I left, I remember I was grieving for a long time. Anyone would mention like, so do you miss? I'd be crying. I'm like, stop, I can't talk to you right now. It took me a while. And I realized, when I get back there, it's like, wow, like every curb here is sacred to me. I don't know why, but it is, I just feel it. And I think because living by the water, like in our backyard where we lived, it was the sea. Like I could go with a cup of coffee, and just look at Scotland across and look at the water and feel that openness, that vastness. And, at night at my friend's house, we'd see the moon, the whole path just lit up.
Wow,
And we'd be going through our awakening. And, it's a perfect place. Like for me, it was just no other place like it. So yeah, it's the weather's, not great.
But that's okay.
People, culture, energy, nature, amazing.
Yeah. Well, just yesterday I was doing some reading through a quantum plant group that and one of the ladies dropped in the cottage in Belfast, where this lady's created this beautiful herb garden with every plant you can imagine that is medicinal, well, they're all medicinal, but nettle, dandelion, all the different ones. And
I just got shivers when you said that. I just recognized that stuff so well. I'm just like,
so beautiful. So beautiful.
So it's incredible when you, as you say, you can have your head in the clouds but your feet on the ground, and that connection between earth and cosmos, those beautiful, the flow of spirit just
I think
between the two so beautifully.
Yeah, we need both. We need definitely, like you said, like connected with our spirit towards the sky, and then definitely plant those feet firmly on the ground and walk, enjoy, play, laugh. This is a playground, if anything. And you gotta just learn how to play this game, of life. And I mean in the most positive way, yeah.
I think but just with your meditations, I think that's where you move so beautifully, because you have so many different meditations for all different aspects, like from the DNA to the smile in the morning to
spirit guides,
guides. But there's many layers in your meditation, but there's always comes through this feeling of joy. So however you enter into the meditation, like from a person experiencing the meditation, like self-speaking with myself, I guess, I always feel so much lighter and connected to the intention that led me to choose whichever meditation that, I selected on the day. You definitely bring through that playfulness, even if it's I won't say serious meditation, but like a there's a level of playfulness in all of your meditations, which is beautiful.
That's so great to hear. Like I'm glad. Like my goal is to always create a safe space, and have this light space, but also come from a place of understanding, or trying to understand what that person might be going through, and to lift them up in any way that I can. And a lot of the meditations came from issues that I've experienced, like even funny ones, like the popular one. I don't know if you can swear on this, but
yeah, sure.
The fuck it meditation came as well, an issue that I had, I was like, I broke up with a guy, but I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It was bothering me.
We might have to add that one to the end of the podcast. We will close it out now for you, Rasa, so you can go and enjoy the beautiful rest of your day in Bali.
Yeah, thank you.
But thank you so much for joining us today.
Mm.
We will add all the links at the bottom of the podcast for our listeners to jump on and listen to one of your beautiful meditations.
And by the way, we always have either our guests or ourselves draw a card out. We've got the Doreen Virtue angel cards on the table, and the one that we drew today for our time with you was ask. It's a little angel, a person, a young child
with wings,
with wings in prayer position, and the card says ask and we can help you in this situation, and we will immediately go to work on your behalf. We're governed by many universal laws, and among them is the free will that allows you to make your own choices and decisions. So we patiently await your request. So I feel like, you've kind of asked
so beautiful
through your life.
throughout your whole life.
Yeah, that was the theme, like ask and you shall receive. That was
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
It's so appropriate for
Beautiful.
Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Rasa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your inspiration, Rasa, and thank you for the gift that you give us all with those beautiful meditations and your yoga app. We can't wait to have a look into that.
Absolutely.
It's a meditation app, actually. Meditation.
Oh,
and
meditation. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you everyone for listening. I hope that everyone just continues with positive mind today and continues to massage that heart and approach everything with a bit of softness.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful. Bless.
Thank you, Rasa.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.